music.
Party's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Lyle, and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
But hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we are all winners, as we investigate every minute of Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever, 1 minute at a time. I am Mr. McGowan.
And I am your other host, the real winner, the number one. I win every time, John Parker.
Today, much like the other day, we're joined by two special guests. One person doesn't even go here, but she's here today. We have Liz Whitaker from Mean Girls Minute.
Hey, that's me.
That is you.
Ooh. And she is joined by a man who spent a lot of time in a laboratory in a rival company to Wayne Enterprises, Clamp Enterprises. Ties in many ways, actually, to this minute. Clamp Enterprises and John Glover and whatnot. But we'll get into that throughout the show. But it's George Hendricks from the Mogwai Minute.
How you doing?
Hey, I have never ever thought about this, but now I want a crossover comic where Batman has to take on the Gremlins.
That would be cool.
I could imagine that being a thing. There's loads of stupid Batman crossovers.
Hey, John.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to tell you, Lego Batman movie, Batman fights Gremlins.
Well, yeah, there are gremlins in there, yeah.
But I've
They're on
deliberately
this
not
plane.
watched that yet because we're going to do something about it on the show eventually. So I haven't bloody watched it.
I would genuinely be up for, because there's so much going on in the Lego Batman movie.
The Lego Batman movie might be one of the best pieces of pop culture that's come out in the last 10 years.
See, this is the problem. Everyone's saying that to me, and I'm like, I've said to Niall I wouldn't watch it.
It is such a perfect balance of funny and its own thing, but it also has more references. You literally can't count the references in this movie.
I would say it almost is worth doing. It's not almost. It's definitely worth doing minute by minute. I would not be averse to after Batman and Robin if we eventually got to do the Lego Batman
I would
movie,
completely. I second that emotion, and I think you should absolutely do it.
Hey, let's see how we feel at the time, but at the minute, I'm excited. I'm on board.
John's just I gotta get out of this.
And here's the thing: after you wrap up the Schumacher movies, it will be the sweetest ambrosia as far as writing, acting, pacing, lack of nipples.
Yeah.
Wait, lack of nipple? No, I'm not interested now. No.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, today we're here to talk about a minute that features finally the introduction to a guy, the man that most people would remember this movie for, one of the most acclaimed, celebrated actors of the 90s. This is the first minute where we get Ed Begley Jr. In the movie. And we've been waiting since minute one.
His electric car.
That is all I knew before post 2000. All I knew Ed Begley Jr. for was that Simpsons joke where he has the car powered by his own sense of self-satisfaction.
And sense of smug.
Yeah. And that was all I knew about Ed Begley Jr. He's an environmentalist guy. And he's in this one episode of The Simpsons where, to be fair, he takes the piss out of himself by delivering that line and stuff. And then afterwards, I'm no, he was Fred Stickley in Batman Forever as well. And I was oh, right. And then finding out, no, he's a big actor.
Yeah,
he's in
He's on St. Elsewhere, I think, was his big thing, back in the 80s.
He's been in everything ever. But I always think of him as Stan Sitwell in Arrested Development.
He's also the hotel manager in Best in Show and has a very lengthy talk about various products to get out dog stains.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like him. Everything I've seen
he's
him
great.
in. He's one of those. Yeah. He's the guy you get in just to do your one kooky character or something. He's not going to be your lead.
But anyway, we actually aren't here to talk about Ed Begley. Well, we are here to talk about Ed Begley Jr. But
yeah, Begley cast. Come on.
But there's another actor in here that I was actually alluding to, but we'll get to him.
Jon Favreau?
Oh, yeah. Jon Favreau is also in this minute, people. This is crazy. This is like a big minute, actually, considering all the stuff that's going on.
Star-studded minute.
One thing I will actually say as well is that I meant to bring it up last minute, but I'll bring it up now because still perfectly relevant. This was initially supposed to be essentially the opening scene of the movie. People who've been listening so far will know like the script was sort of muddled about and re-edited and whatnot, post shooting. So I believe the original cut of this, or the Red Book edition, as the purists call it, was to have Two-Face's break out from Arkham, which was deleted. Then I guess you would have had the opening credits. And then there was supposed to be a scene, I think it was a flashback of Bruce falling into the cave, which you get loads of later. Then it would have been him in a plane, which I don't think they ever shot. And then this. So this essentially would have been like the opening scene of the movie, really. Like,
And there's a difference in the draft that I want to read at the end.
But yeah, so we have the Bruce coming in here to the Wayne Enterprises Science Division, R&D Division. Is that what you call it? I guess. Or...
Why don't they sit
R&D.
down with all these fancy people and have them design some light bulbs?
Hey, we need better light bulbs.
This room
crap
is
we've
like
got
a
now.
cave. It is a dark cave, which I guess, given Batman, he's probably into that aesthetic, but it cannot be good for your eyesight.
Certainly not for designing things.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, this scene, actually, this whole scene, actually, because we've been trying to kickstart a bit of a Val Kilmer renaissance of like, well, always kind of thought he was a bit of a lame duck as Batman and stuff. But then like, oh, maybe I'll get what he's going for now, rewatching it in modern years. But I think this scene is an indication of something that's wrong with him, in that they're painting a picture of a Bruce Wayne that he is not playing.
Yeah.
No, he's playing it a bit more like Keaton, actually.
Well, that's the thing, actually, because there's a little deleted bit from the Goldsman draft here. I'll read that quickly, because one thing that struck me about it, I wonder if it strikes you guys as well. Because it says, Bruce Wayne enters, his Armani suit, the only fresh thing about him. Followed by a sudden stream of executives. One of them says, the solar generator tests are back. Bruce says, great, could you wait a second? Assistant says, the mayor's office called again. Someone else says, who are you going to the circus with? A secretary says, 5 minutes to your inspection. And then Bruce says, stop! Everybody freezes. And he says, okay, I want you all to stand here for 15 seconds, okay? 15, everybody got it? And folks nod, and then Bruce says, good, nobody move, now. And then he says to himself, I gotta give myself a raise. And kind of smiles to himself as he walks on. Does that strike any of you guys in a particular way? Because
That doesn't even strike me as very Bruce Wayne.
It strikes me as something I'm glad I didn't have to watch.
Yeah.
the thing, I read that, and that struck me like, oh, they were writing this for Michael Keaton. That seems like something I can imagine Michael Keaton doing. Like, he has that kind of like charmingly, kind of quirky humor to him in general, and you got a little bit of it in his Bruce Wayne among the public and stuff. It's like, I can imagine like when they wrote that, they're like, oh, Michael Keaton be playing this part, right?
Well, it makes sense when like your last like big Batman reference before Michael Keaton was Adam West.
Yeah.
And so he is, redefined the character as, this sort of like, bumbly, but like really on it kind of individual as he did, which, it's classic. But then it makes sense they're going to transfer that forward as they move into another, but we got a new guy, but we still got the same character. So let's just have him be that guy.
Yeah.
It is weird, actually. I would have said before the opposite, but I see what you're saying, Niall. Like, I would have said before he was playing it a bit like Keaton in that they've written this Bruce to be personable. They've written this Bruce to, he goes to his company regularly, seemingly. People know who he is. He meets with people. He has business dealings. He's running the company. But he's not playing it like a person who does those things, I don't think.
I think Kilmer's playing it much the same way he just plays Batman. It seems like, this is a man who's like dead inside and stuff. And that's okay to play Batman that way. But the way they're portraying Bruce Wayne kind of throughout the movie is that like, he is renowned socialite Bruce Wayne. So charming, so elegant, such a cool guy. And I don't get that vibe from him, from Val Kilmer at all. Like, it doesn't strike me as that. I don't know if he got the note or whatever. Maybe he didn't get the memo.
Did he not read the line where he makes the little flirty joke? No, that's my name. And you are? Like,
that line should also be like imbued with humor, but he doesn't really have much humor to it.
deadpan.
Like, It's almost as if like if you got George Clooney in to do this scene, he'd do a better job than that. Because just by being George Clooney, you can imagine him
Yes.
doing all that. But
At least it'd be funny.
Gosh, I imagined George Clooney saying that line, and I swooned a bit.
Oh, you're a Clune dog.
No, I'm not. I
She's
just
a Clune
imagined.
hound.
I just jeez. I was just
I'm
imagining
glad you said it.
how he would have delivered it, and he's just so charming that even though I don't really find him attractive, I had a moment of swoon.
If you think about Val Kilmer, aside from Real Genius, where he was the manic pixie girl of the 80s, none of Val Kilmer's characters have any sort of like real high key emotive level. They're always very stoic. They're always very laconic. They deliver their lines in a cool fashion. But I guess if you want to bridge the generations, Real Genius and then Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He had a totally different vibe in that one. But those are the only two I can think of that he hasn't just been playing the I'm Val Kilmer. How are you?
Well,
sort of
even in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, though, he's hardly Mr. Energetic.
yeah. But you do get like as he's going through, and you get like for some reason Ed Begley Jr., Fred Stickley, as he's called in the movie, his booming introduction to Mr. Word, which I don't know if it's just accidental because the room's essentially an aircraft hangar.
Yeah.
Or if he's trying to establish dominance in some way of just like going the
Make
biggest.
yourself big.
But then he instantly goes the other way, like, "Oh, your inspection is a departmental highlight." It's like the most sniveling kind of response line ever.
Do you guys do you hate him? Because I hate this guy.
I mean, he's made to be
The boss
hated.
guy?
He's
Yeah.
Yeah, but surely Bruce has hired him.
Mm.
Well,
no,
that's the thing.
I mean,
Has
come
Bruce
on.
personally hired this guy?
No.
Because I would assume if you've put someone in charge of your research and development,
Well,
you've picked him.
his name was on the hiring slip.
It's still so many
Yeah.
levels down. It's like an HR thing. They're like, yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
He's someone's
Because
nephew.
if it was Bruce,
No, so I see some nepotism there.
if it was Bruce, you would assume Bruce would have had better taste in people, knowing him.
So here's the
Because this
thing.
guy is a sniveling turd.
That's true. But I do think that occasionally, like, higher level leaders have a huge blind spot for what their mid-level managers are like.
I feel now though, because for one, I really love Begley Jr.'s performance. I think I really, really love what he does with his character. But am I now like a Stickley apologist? Because I'm like, we only really see him trying to he's trying to be charming to Bruce Wayne and get on and see the department and stuff. But he's having to deal with Edward Nygma every day, and presumably he's had to tell him no about 50 million times. And he knows Edward Nygma's not right. Like, he just knows that, I don't know if he's ever gone to, like, a HR department about him and gone, like, this guy's a bit too into Bruce Wayne. He doesn't really concentrate on his work. He just everything he's doing is a bit, like, I try to, terminate this project he's doing. He keeps going on about it and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel a bit bad for because everything about him is just more like, I have all this to run, and I've got this one loose wheel, and I don't know what to do with him because
Be a better manager.
Yeah, well,
Document your issues and document him out the door. Promote him to customer.
I really like that as a phrase.
I worked in retail management for 10 years, and that was how we described it when we had to let someone go. We promoted them to customer.
Now you get to come in and buy things like a regular
Now
person.
you get
Isn't that
to pay to be here.
It's the dream.
But as Bruce is coming in, we do get like a first indication of Edward Nygma. But there's one thing, just say that these movies are all supposed to be connected. Crazy as it might seem. Because we remember Bruce Wayne in the first movie was a guy that, Vicky Vale and Alexander Knox went to his party and they didn't recognize him. He had to be like, I've bought it from Japan. Oh, I'm Bruce Wayne. All that stuff. So he was out of the public eye. He was supposed to attend Harvey Dent's press conference, but he didn't show up and stuff. So it was an alluding like, Bruce Wayne is a known entity as a name in Gotham, but he's in the house on the hill. He's Edward Scissorhands.
Which is a thing you could get away with back in 1989.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Michael Keaton had said that he wanted Bruce to be more open in the second movie, which is why he's down dealing with Max Schreck personally and like throwing the friggin' folder across the desk at him and stuff. But at the same time, it was a bit weird because during the Christmas tree lighting, Bruce Wayne was up in the house by himself and stuff, and it still seemed as if he was a recluse who was just, his life is just being Batman. He has no other...
It takes time to come out of your shell.
Yeah, he had to baby step it.
And it could be that if they were planning this to be Michael Keaton, maybe this was supposed to be a big drastic step, because you see it in the front of the magazine cover that Edward Nygma lifts up. You see it very briefly, but it's a picture of Bruce Wayne with the specs on and the polo neck, looking very Steve Jobs, as Michael Keaton did.
Yeah. Maybe Steve Jobs stole this.
No, well, I would not be. After all these years, like someone finds a hidden diary. It's like, I stole everything from Michael Keaton in that one scene in Batman, and then that one magazine cover in Batman Forever. But it says, though, like his quote at the front of the newspaper is,
"Oh, I hate this."
Bruce Wayne, it's lonely at the summit.
No way did he say that.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm kind of thinking now maybe post Selina Kyle, where Bruce went through he thought he had someone he could, reach out to and they could be happy together. And then she ended up friggin' just, slashing him in the face and then electrocuting, Chris Walken and disappearing and stuff.
Hey, that's how my relationships go.
But it could be like maybe then it's like, oh, that wasn't going to work. Maybe now, since then, he has blossomed into like Bruce Wayne has opened up. He's been like, then maybe that's why they're doing
this. He found a good therapist, and he's been working through his issues. And this is, Bruce really making an effort.
Yeah.
I can buy it. It's believable enough.
But at the same time, then you have to wonder like how long within the film has Edward Nygma's obsession with him been going on for? Like, there's a thing in the novelization. I think I'll leave that till like the next minute, but. Where it's indicated it's lifelong, but is Edward Nygma like, yeah?
Did they go to school together?
Well, I might as well just bring it up now. I suppose.
Apparently, I'm not going to let you leave it till the next minute.
No, don't.
No, there's a chapter in the novelization which is a flashback to Edward Nygma's childhood.
Did you read it sexy?
And at one point he's getting picked on by a kid, and he's reading the newspaper because he's in the library, and the teacher says like, "Oh, Edward, why don't you read something?" And he's just like, I've read everything in this library because I have an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. And they think he's been a smart ass, but he's actually telling the truth and stuff. And so they're like, oh, just read the paper. And it's the paper the day Bruce Wayne's parents have been killed. And he's looking at the picture of Bruce Wayne, and it's all about like all this grief-stricken child and stuff. And Edward Nygma goes like, that's not grief. Like, that kid is angry. And he's like, this is the same anger that I feel for being a misunderstood brainiac in this school full of idiots and stuff.
Not really comparable.
Well, but that's the thing. But afterwards, he also gets picked on again, and then he gets thrown down on the floor, and he cracks up the back of his head, and he goes into a coma.
I like that.
And it's the same. And then when he wakes up from the coma, apparently he has like a sense of clarity about his life, and he feels like, well, this tragedy befell me. A similar tragedy befell Bruce Wayne. Maybe we're like kindred spirits, and that starts him on his obsession about like, oh, me and Bruce Wayne, like he has this whole thing like, oh, I'm so much smarter than everyone else, but Bruce Wayne is even smarter than me, and all this sort of stuff. So that starts his lifelong obsession with this. But within the finished movie, maybe freaking last week he was really into like Kurt Russell or someone, and he just fanboys over everybody who comes his way or something.
That'd be amazing if he takes this picture of Bruce down off the wall and there's the old Kurt Russell one.
He's just going through the cast of Tombstone one by one.
It's pretty interesting if supervillainy is often a case of like exaggerated mental illness, that the Riddler's apparently underlying issue was autism.
I can see that.
His obsessive compulsive behavior, his lack of social graces. I mean, he really is like just a hardcore autistic guy who just was undiagnosed. And what if the only thing he needed was some Adderall?
It could be.
But the Riddler just had really hard ADHD.
Yeah, I was like, that's attention deficit, not for.
I'm saying it's like it's a combination of things, and that's like he just needed something to help him calm down and focus instead of like run around unmedicated.
I think the same applies to Jim Carrey.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about him yet. Well, let me tell you who I have some
he's in
issues
this?
with.
Oh God, yeah, you've got a shot coming.
If you did sign up for the non-Jim Carrey movie, you missed that boat.
And as we've talked about prior, he is just being Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And
yeah.
that's my big issue with him. Oh, I love him when he's in stuff where he's not being Jim Carrey.
But you have to put it in the context of the time. At the time, this shtick was like
That's
gold.
what we wanted.
Yeah, the world wanted
Listen,
it for some reason.
I laughed at The Mask. I enjoyed The Mask a lot, but there's and Dumb and Dumber. But other than that, those are the only two properties that he did in his heyday where I really can go like, okay, yeah, I had a good time watching those. Everything
But
else,
at the time, because at the time, I loved them all. I loved Ace Ventura, etc. Now, I don't like most of them.
Ace Ventura is a tough watch nowadays.
Oh, speaking of, okay, so what about his glasses? That clear, slightly horn rim plastic frame is every person I know has a pair of those these
so
days.
Yeah,
in vogue
yeah,
They
right
are
now.
girls I work
everywhere.
with has
They are
this.
the absolute pinnacle of glasses fashion right now. But they were supposed
Yeah,
to
they
make him
are.
look a total nerdo. Do you think that the person who pushed that out now is like, oh, those are cool in this movie and decided, let's make this a thing in 2019?
Well, they are too narrow for his face, so there's that.
Yeah.
I have to say though, I'm a big fan of his early look. I like the floppy hair and the glasses and like the green shirt and the bright white sneakers and stuff. I think that's a good look for this guy.
I'm waiting for the Annie Lennox hair, man.
But that's the
He
thing
looks like
though.
Yeah. He looks like a 2019 college researcher, university professor right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Just ahead of his time. Edward Nygma was always ahead of his time.
He's a fashion god.
But the thing is, so we do get, yes, of course, like now the grand introduction to one Jim Carrey. He does his, like, oh my God, it's him, and then has to reassure himself in a very, I don't know why, just nowadays it reminds me of The Force Awakens with like I can do this, and then cutting to Ray in the cockpit going, I can do this. But he's doing like, I am a winner, and building himself up.
I'm pretty sure if you have to do that in the first place, you're not really a winner.
Well,
If you
that's
have to tell yourself.
the one thing about because every other iteration of the Riddler that I know wouldn't be like this, because this is like going in like, oh, this guy is very self-loathing, I guess, and it doesn't have any confidence and stuff.
But this is his origin, Niall.
Yeah, but even back in the early days of the earliest Riddler comics and stuff, when they did his flashbacks, his origin stories and stuff, Edward Nygma is always very smug. That's kind of his big characteristic, is always that he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And that's,
Well, by the end of this movie, he's certainly going to think that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and that's always his beef with Batman, because Batman is smarter than him. So it's just like I need to beat this guy because he is, and he'll never admit that he's smarter than him. He's like, oh well, he cheated or whatever. But he always has this. Edward Nygma is supposed to if they had scenes of him interacting with other office workers where he is just like, oh, these idiots and stuff, much like that.
Much like me in my office.
But that flashback in the novelization, like him talking to the bullies, and he's trying to tell them a joke and stuff, and he's just like, "Oh, do you want to hear a knock joke for idiots?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And he's like, "Okay, you go first then." And then he's like, "Knock," and then Edward Nygma goes, "Who's there?" And then they're just standing there going, "Boo," and that's the joke because he switched the roles on them and they didn't realize and stuff.
Oh, such a sick burn.
Yeah, but that's the kind of character he's supposed to be. But this guy seems like he is a complete loser who doesn't, he's working away by himself, but he's too shy to talk to other people and stuff. He doesn't have that air of superiority about him and stuff.
Well, this is because this is him before he discovered the Eurythmics.
I always wanted his hair in this later on, I'll be honest.
But John, at this point, you want anybody's hair.
That is true. It's true.
You can't
It's
say that,
upsetting.
George. Only bald people can say things like that.
We can make fun of each other.
Listen, I have a bald friend.
Oh, it's fine then. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I can say that. I have a bald friend, okay?
You've got the bald pass.
Yeah.
But one thing I will ask, because it's not in the commentary and I couldn't find it anywhere else, but I can't help but feel like this little bobblehead thing he tilts, which is like the Riddler essentially.
Yeah, the Riddler, the old school one.
But that's the thing, yeah. This is definitely based on Frank Gorshin, like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
But, I mean, in this world, it's probably like this is his bobblehead figure for Question Man or something stupid
Yeah,
where they have
the
to like, I
puzzler
took
or
my
something,
inspiration
yeah.
from this ridiculous thing and now I am the Riddler.
Like maybe he took it with him. I don't know if you guys do this, but in the UK, if you go in to like take an exam, a test or something, you're allowed to take like a little mascot with you for good luck.
Oh,
And
really?
you can put it on the desk. Yeah,
That's adorable.
I know it's cute, isn't it?
Here,
Maybe you put
it
that
might
on
be
the
full of
desk.
answers.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's like
It would definitely
microchips
not
on
be
there
allowed
that your
here.
RFID chip reads or something, and
Well, maybe you can't do it nowadays, but you could always do it back in the day when they didn't think you would have anything like that.
But in terms of like old school, illusions, you have like Frank Gorshin bobblehead, and Jim Carrey has said that like his introduction to the Riddler was Frank Gorshin, so he says like, oh, that's what I was going for. Whereas we like, oh, it's just you just came across like Jim Carrey. But to be fair, later on, there are certain physical things he does that are like, oh, that's from the '60s show and stuff.
Yeah, and he's a very physical actor. So that makes sense.
Although one thing that really bugs me is that because they do that, they even have him at the Dutch angle, like a severe Dutch angle, like the '60s show. But then he taps the bobblehead and it gives a laugh, but it's like a generic kind of like witch laugh, like. And the thing is, the Frank Gorshin Riddler had a really distinctive laugh, that kind of. I was like, why didn't they do that? Anybody
that
could
was
have
as good as
that.
technology would allow back then.
But like they could have been. Well, this is set in the quasi future. It's coming up with a device that like could not possibly exist. So you could pretend, yes, even at that point. That
But most of Batman stuff is stuff that couldn't possibly exist unless Batman had designed it or one of the bad guys had come up with this crazy idea. It's a superhero thing.
But of course, we have Stickley leading around Bruce Wayne. And as we talked about in the green room, a third person is in the company skulking around in the background there. One Jon Favreau, which is just kind of weird to see now because he doesn't even get a line. It's just like, oh, there's Jon Favreau for 2 seconds.
With his haircut and his like just like swagger, it looks like the VP of doing stuff.
He looks like a baby.
He's a child in this.
He looks so young.
He does also look like a mob enforcer or something. Like he's there to... Maybe he is Bruce Wayne's heavy. Like, if anyone starts any trouble down the R&D department, give him what for,
That was far too good an impression of generic heavy in a mob.
Generic mob heavy. That's my Halloween costume, by the way.
What are you? Generic heavy.
I'm mob heavy number 2.
But the thing is, though, because, like... I looked into Jon Favreau, like, oh, what point of his career was he at then? Because I think this is 95. Swingers is 96.
This is before Swingers.
But,
when was he in Friends? Was that later 90s?
I was like, oh, this must have been around the time of Friends, but apparently, no, that was 97. So I was like, oh, all right. At this point in his life, he made his film debut in the movie Folks, with an exclamation mark, that we talked about in season 2, I believe. Someone else was in Folks, but that's the Tom Selleck. From the plot description, it's like Tom Selleck has to take in his senile father, and shenanigans occur.
Oh, do they learn life lessons and then discover a bond they never knew they had?
Almost definitely. But now the fact that the father's senile, you can tell like, oh, we're doing 3 Men and a Baby only as an old person, and we're not sensitive to like, people whose parents might actually be senile and stuff. So
3 Men and a senile,
basically, or 1 man and a senile.
I mean, they could have, or they should have made it a grandmother, and then it could have been 3 men and an old lady.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. And then it could be like a spiritual sequel.
But from what I've seen on IMDb, it can never be a true Tom Selleck movie because he's not got the mustache in it.
No,
he's not got the mustache. That wasn't the point.
It completely derails that.
Yep, that's his whole brand.
But so we made his film debut, Jon Favreau, in Folks. Then he went on to be in Hoffa, of course, directed by Dan DeVito, and starring Dan DeVito, and starring Jack Nicholson. And then he was in the movie Speechless, which features Michael Keaton and Christopher Reeve. So when they're promoting that, it's like, it's Batman and Superman are in a movie, only it's a really boring love story about speechwriters.
Sexy.
Probably most people might recognize him in his pre-fame days is that he's in an episode of Seinfeld where he plays a clown. George is picking a fight with a clown at a party at one point. He's doing the whole like asking him about like Bozo the clown, and the clown doesn't know who Bozo is, and he's like, oh, what about you, man? You're living in the past, man. You're hung up in some clown from the 60s, man. And that's Jon Favreau. So, and then, from Seinfeld to this, and then from this to friggin' Swingers, and then from Swingers to Friends to friggin' directing Iron Man, and basically been
He was
the
in
guy
Iron Man too.
Oh, yeah, Happy Hogan.
And of course, Niall, he was the ultimate fighting champion.
Yes. But yeah, it's just the fact, like, Jon Favreau, like, he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, because, like, if that first Iron Man didn't work, it probably wouldn't be an MCU,
that would have derailed a lot of other movies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't think they had a lot of plans in place until they saw how that did.
There's a guy, because he's a comic book guy, and he's like, he established, a loving, a reverent tone to the source material, but also like a good starting block from which you could build.
Yep.
That's why I think even like it works so well at the end of Endgame. Like, it was because you're getting so choked up at the end of Endgame anyway. But like when Tony Stark's daughter's talking to Happy, and he's just like, well, what do you want? And she's like, cheeseburgers. And that's like, that's what Tony Stark wanted way back at the Iron Man 1 when he got back from being captured. But now like she's saying that.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, but she's saying it to the guy who friggin' directed the first Iron Man now that the characters died and stuff. And it's like, oh, this is so well put together as a movie.
Oh yeah,
So,
Full circle.
it was. I always talk about this because like prior to watching Endgame, after taking my daughter to see Captain Marvel, she loved it and wanted to watch the others. So we watched all of the other Marvel movies in order between when Captain Marvel was out and Endgame was coming out, which was about like a month and a half at that point.
Jesus.
And so we fit all 21 movies in there that like hadn't been watched, all the way up to Ant-Man and the Wasp. And then like we did that on a Friday and then turned around and watched Endgame on a Saturday. And I can't tell you how rewarding so much of Endgame was, having the entire run fresh in your brain as you're watching this. It's just a completely different movie experience.
Oh, I'll have to do that one day because most of them I have seen once when they came out.
No, you should
And then
definitely
never
do the entire run and then watch it, and it'll blow your mind.
I don't think you could physically do it in one day.
No. There are literally not enough hours in the day for that.
But I don't think the MCU needs any more promotion from anybody.
No, not on this DC cast. God damn
I
it!
feel like we're betraying our own brand over here.
But Bruce being introduced to Edward Nigma now, right? There's no way I'm ever getting on board with this name.
Oh yeah,
No
hate
way.
it.
If it was all out campy, this film, like Batman and Robin is going to be, I'd buy it. But this movie still tries to keep one foot in like realism and Edward Nigma.
Yeah, but you can't shorten it, otherwise you're going to get into scary territory as far as word usage goes.
Just come up with anything else. Why isn't his surname just Riddle or something? I don't know.
That was already
Jimmy
been
Riddle.
used
Harry
when
Potter
J.K.
hadn't come
Rowling
out yet.
Yeah, exactly, Liz.
It wasn't a real last name yet.
Well, there's a wrestler at the moment, Matt Riddle. There you go. Why isn't he just like Danny Riddle? I don't know.
I think then he's just the Riddler, and his last name is Riddle. It's a bit too much for me. But
It might be a bit too, as in, I wouldn't mind it, but it might be obvious to everyone who it is.
What if his last name could have been like Radler?
Yeah, anything. That's better.
yeah,
Although a Radler is a type of drink.
It is, exactly. So it's like, no, not like the drink.
but it's well, that's the thing though, because like again, going way back to like Edward Nigma's first appearance in the comics, so I'm like, oh, maybe they added it in later. No, the first panels establishes that his name is Edward Nigma. And they even spell it, because I think nowadays it's spelled like Nygma, but even back then they were Nigma. So it's like, oh, you can't miss the enigma part of it.
Yeah.
And it was very frustrating, but like I think then they changed it in like post-crisis continuity to his name was Edward Nashton, and then he changed it to Edward Nigma.
That makes sense, at least.
I think that was always my thing. Of like, I really want them to do a version where Edward Nashton, and maybe they will do it now because they've just friggin' hired the new Riddler with Paul Dano. Genius casting. I'm 100% behind.
In this version, they do spell it like that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like, but yeah, no, I'm with you, John. It's a stupid, it's iconic, but it's stupid.
But like, I wish there was a version though where the Riddler starts off in his campaign of crime and he tries to give himself the name Mr. Enigma, because his actual name is Edward Nashton, but he calls himself Mr. Enigma because he's like, oh, I'm so clever, and then the press just don't get it, so they're calling him the Riddler, and every time he's referred to as the Riddler, he's like, no, my name is Mr. Enigma, for Christ's sake, and he just gets more and more frustrated as it goes on and stuff. Like that's the way to go for me personally, but that's more of like,
and at least it's pointing out it's stupid.
oh yeah, but the thing is, there's an original draft of this script, and before Akiva Goldsman came in, and in that draft, his name is not Edward Nygma. And I want to see where this lands with you people of the name that the Bachelors came up for, the Riddler.
Because I don't know this genuinely, so shoot.
Throughout that whole movie, his name was Lyle Heckendorf.
Here for it.
All right.
That's a name.
Yeah.
It fits him much better. I like it. I think it works.
And I don't know, but then it opens up an opportunity for another super villain, the Heckler.
Yeah.
Yep.
He just asshole goes to nightclubs and
Yeah.
just takes
Honestly, I think that speaks a lot to his pathos. I think that actually also fits the Riddler. I can see him being a huge heckler. He does heckle a bit in this movie too.
Kind of, yeah.
What is it? The heckler works his way up to like. He doesn't fight Batman, but he shows up while Batman's fighting, and he's just like, "Hey, was it cold in here? What's the deal with those nipples, Batman?"
The name just makes me think of the wrestler Shawn Michaels, because his real name is Michael Hickenbottom,
Ooh.
which is much less cool. And he used to always try and be Mr. Cool, Mr. Sexy. You can't be sexy if your name's Hickenbottom.
That's true.
Tell that to Bitterly Dick Cumberbatch.
Well, yeah, a lot of people are into him, so there
He's
you go.
got the craziest name ever, and he's totally sexy.
It's a crazy name even to us over here, so yeah, we're on board.
You're like, well, don't look at us. No one else around here is using that. We're all from England.
But that's even within that draft though, they establish early on, like from his first line, that he's like self-loathing and kind of shy and stuff because he's doing a crossword puzzle, and he's like, "What's a 4-letter word for oaf?" Lyle. And he's just like, it even says in the brackets like self-deprecating and stuff. It's like,
Oh, I like that.
But yeah, so like now, whenever people like write about Edward Nygma in articles, you guys can come in and be like, "Not my Riddler." Hashtag Lyle Heckendorf.
Sounds like it needs to be doing a Sudoku.
Oh,
Okay. Well, it's been fun, guys. I have some place
the worse the gag.
anywhere else to be.
I like as well the Goldsman draft describes him as a man so uncomfortable his very skin seems to be a costume. And I thought Carey was nailing that. He's quite repulsive, really.
Mm-hmm.
He, even just looking at him, you're like, oh.
This guy.
I feel
This
like
guy.
I'm apologizing. I think, again, I'm a fan of his look. I even here I think like, oh, Jim Carrey's like a pretty good looking guy. Like,
Oh, he's not ugly. It's just his manner, his person.
Oh,
you know,
yes, yeah.
the way he holds himself.
He's so obsequious and mewling and yeah.
Yeah.
But he goes very hard in the teeth here, actually. But although speaking of that, though, one thing that I've discovered so far this season, opposed to Liz and George, is that I've spoken to people off the show now, and they're as surprised as I am. But frequently we've had guests on so far, and they've said that in the 90s, the biggest hunk was Chris O'Donnell. That they were
Yeah,
like,
he was.
I just can't get my head around that. That just
I
seems...
once thought he was very handsome, yes.
I mean, he had the eye for a while until he went off the radar, then showed up again on like NCIS New
Los
Orleans
Angeles.
or something.
But he's lost his boyish charm.
That's
mate.
Liz. Liz is keeping tabs on him. Like, no.
Yeah,
this
she
is
knows
Los
where he is at all
Angeles.
times.
Well, Liz, you were a fan, clearly. So I was trying to explain to Niall that people seem to really like him because, he's rugged and manly, but he's pretty.
That's
And that was the 90s
Yes.
heartthrob.
He's got like the sort of like pretty eyes, I guess, but he also just seems kind of normal because he's not overly handsome.
So not like
Like
a
a
Chris
model.
Evans.
Right. He's not perfect. He's the kind of Hollywood celebrity that you are, you have in your pantheon of Hollywood celebrities you think are attractive or whatever, because he seems sort of attainable because he's
The boy
just-
next door.
Yeah. Until you see him in this movie with an earring and it's massive and awful.
But what's more
Beautiful.
90s heartthrob than that?
Because every time I see it, I'm just thinking like, sparkle, sparkle. There it is.
Just a bit too large. Just tone it down a smidge.
Every sexy guy in the 90s had one earring like that.
Oh yeah.
I do love that in the movie here, Bruce hired him personally,
Yeah.
but he doesn't remember him, because that makes sense to me. He, I don't think he really headhunted him or anything. Plus, even if he did do that, that would just be kind of like, let's look at the list of top candidates you've sent me, HR department. Okay, yeah, this one, he's got the stats. Yeah, hire that guy.
Oh, I just took it as Bruce really had nothing to do with it. His name is just on all of the welcome letters or like on all the offer letters. He maybe never even actually met the person.
It's a total rubber stamp situation of like...
Yeah, I think he signs the document. He goes, oh, okay, this guy, yeah, okay, yeah, sign. Hey, fine. But doesn't remember his name, doesn't know anything about him.
I do love, though, again, I love Ed Begley Jr. in this movie, but like everything he's doing in the lead up to and during the meeting of, because like as soon as he sees Edward making a beeline for Bruce Wayne, and he kind of hugs Bruce Wayne into him and tries to kind of skip on over the...
Like, oh, no, quick.
And then as soon as, like, Edward makes his presence known, he instantly goes into, like, facepalm territory. And, like, it's not a subtle performance.
He does
but
a
it's
full
If Ed
body
Begley Jr.
cringe.
were a good manager, he would have been like, "Hey, Eddie, I need to send you off site for today. I want you to go check out this whatever. I need to go do a tour of this other facility and give me your feedback on it, just to get him out of the office."
Sending him to guard the bee.
That would have been
down in the
planning
basement.
ahead. Yeah. But he's got this excellent, like, maroon burgundy suit on, which is only ruined by the fact that his pants are too short and flop around while he's walking.
That's a 90s fashion.
He's also got the Dwight from The Office yellow shirt tie thing
Yellow
on.
shirt, yeah.
Which I guess maybe in 1995, pre The Office, was acceptable, but now as soon as you see
It's
it,
just
it's
not,
like,
yeah. Now it's
Yeah.
cosplay.
I'm going to wear it to work and see if anyone notices.
You should do it.
Well, as long as your pants are long enough, it's fine.
I do favor a short pant. Because a lot of
Just
my
one.
fashion is 70s. One. A lot of my fashion, I go for like 70s punk and stuff and 80s. So they tended to have a little bit of a shorter leg to show off the socks.
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
Show off the socks.
So also the cut of the pant is not so that it is flopping in the wind like these
Yes.
pants are. That's the difference.
It's true. Yeah, very, very different construction.
Yes, the cut of a wool suit pant worn this way should be long enough to hit your shoe. I'm just saying. When you're sitting is when you show your socks off in this outfit.
There was an era, I can't remember, where they had a short leg like this, but they were big trousers, but they tapered in at the last second, tight to your leg. I can't remember if it's like, was it 30s trousers? It's something around the 30s. And that kind of works because it tapers in at the very end.
And
so it doesn't sort of...
cuts the flopping down.
That is the mission statement of the show, is to cut
It's
the
really
flopping down.
it's really the pant hem flopping that I take issue with.
Nobody likes it floppy. So
Well, that's the thing, though. In comparison, Liz, Bruce Wayne's suit, because I can't imagine him being anything less than immaculately tailored. So I can't imagine. Does he make similar mistakes in your mind, or you think he's
No,
cutting edge?
in fact, I noticed it when their ankles were pretty much right next to each other.
you compared.
Yeah, I did. Before I went,
It's
went on
it's
my
a very
tirade.
90s outfit, though. His suit is 90s to the max again. Everyone had
With
this
the
awful
double-breasted. But,
Yeah.
Because I keep trying to establish a continuity throughout the three movies in my head, even though there's no point, because they're not the same universe, essentially. But the fact they've kept the glasses on Bruce Wayne. So remember at the time in the first movie, we were like, oh, could you think Batman would be all like 20/20 vision? Like he can't have glasses unless he's just wearing them for
you
show.
can see from the glasses on the front of the magazine that they're non-prescription because they don't curve; they reflect flat.
Ah, so it could be.
So they're fake.
It's all
yeah,
for show.
they're his I need to feel smart today spectacles.
Yeah. Also, I would be a terrible minute-by-minute guest host, whatever, if I didn't point out the typo on the cover of the magazine. Whatever happened to question mark.
Oh, wait. I haven't seen it. I didn't notice.
Second 10.
How have I missed this? Let's have a look. Oh, holy crap.
Yep.
How did I miss that?
Holy typo, Batman.
Holy typo.
Where
Maybe
did
that's
I
why
see it?
Edward Enigma cut it out, because he's writing in to the like, well, I think you should find that you've actually got a typo in the front of your magazine.
Yeah.
And like, I've
And
got
also
it right
the
here.
same picture he has like stuck to there. He's got the smaller version stuck over change your look, change your life. The article covers. This whole pastiche of magazine covers is pretty funny.
I love it.
That's the thing, though. Like, in that magazine cover, is Bruce Wayne, is he supposed to be just holding his... Is he holding a phone, or is he just doing a
Yeah.
weird pose?
No, he's on one of those
phone.
giant 90s cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's out of like a big antenna thing that comes out an aerial, you know. Like, you have to pull it out of the end and it goes
I
back
can
in
see in
long.
the Gordon Gekko phone, the scenes in Wall Street where he's down on the beach with this giant loaf of bread to the side of his head and stuff. It's like, oh, this guy's cool and rich. Look at his fancy phone.
Yeah. Oh my god, I could never ever be like him.
But yeah, so that we do have the meeting of the great minds of Bruce Wayne and Edward Nygma. And then he's Bruce has been he's been caught in Nygma's vice-like grip. And
Do you know
very
what that
cringy.
reminded me of? The way they just kept holding hands after shaking. Niall, you'll probably know.
is it BANZAI?
BANZAI. Right. For the listeners, most of which are American, BANZAI was a TV show in the UK where these Japanese guys would sort of prank people. And there was one, Mr. Shake Hands Man, who would go to like movie premieres and stuff, and he would interview people. And he would shake their hand for as long as possible. That was the game, to keep it going for like 5 minutes and stuff. And he would get away with it. It'd be like 5 minutes into the conversation, he's still shaking their hand while he's still...
I remember some of them were great, because some of them, it was big celebrities too. Like, it'd be, I think he had Kelsey Grammer at one point. He definitely had Meatloaf at one point.
Yeah.
He could have well have had Val Kilmer as well at some point.
It's a
Meatloaf
reference.
was just going to let it ride just to prolong the human touch.
Oh, we all need a little bit more of that.
But yeah, so we kind of touched upon earlier, just the lack of humor Val has, though, and like because he's oh, Bruce Wayne, and like no, that's my name. It's like I feel Michael Keaton definitely would have got like, oh, this is a joke, so he would have done like a little arched eyebrow, and it would have been a little bit of it would have been an allusion back to the first movie when Vicky Vale was just like, oh, do you know which one of these guys is Bruce Wayne? And, oh, I'm not quite sure, and stuff like that. But like here, it just seems like
Here, if you watch it with the sound off, it looks threatening.
Yeah, it's intense. If you just let it play, it's very, very unsettling.
Well, I've paused it at second 59, and Edward is angrily grimacing at him. It looks scary.
I just want to like Bruce Wayne is like, yes, I'm Bruce Wayne, and I have actually murdered everyone else named Bruce Wayne because I want to be the only one. So,
and you are? Am I going to need to murder you now too?
Oh, actually, I would have liked it as well. Another name for this character, instead of Edward Nygma, he loves Bruce so much, he's changed his name to Bruce Wayne.
Oh, okay.
I want to be just like you, Bruce.
I would have also liked if he changed his name to Mr. Shake Hands Man. That would have been quite appropriate for this minute.
Everybody go and look it up on YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's gold. BANZAI was a great show. It was particularly good when
Place your bets now.
Yeah, when they repeated it when we were in university, we used to actually sit with like, it's like piles of money. We used to have like whatever shrapnel we had in our pockets and would put bets on it was great fun. So
that was a good show.
it's a thing I can imagine Dave Pallas getting behind for some weird reason. I can imagine him becoming a big BANZAI guy. But
Yeah, Dave, go and watch BANZAI on YouTube. It's probably there, and get back in touch. But this scene is a little bit different in the Goldsman draft again. It happens way earlier, as you said, Niall, but also there's another bit I like. It goes, Edward Nygma, awkward, brilliant, and feverishly anxious, stares up at the screen, talking to himself. And the stuff he says is weird. He looks up and says, we'll probably go to the house for dinner. Yes. Maybe he'll throw a little party in my honor. Suddenly, Edward bangs his head against the desktop, hard. A brief window on the inner Edward, all insecurity and self-loathing. Idiot! Should have rented a tuxedo. Suddenly calm. Relax. I'm sure Wayne Manor has extra. After all, we're almost the same size.
I wish that
He-
was still in there. I love that.
It's great because even more obsessed with Bruce, to the point where not only does he think he's going to be invited to his house for dinner, he's going to borrow his clothes.
I want to see that now. I love that so much.
Then it has the same bit. It says the opposing wall is a shrine to Bruce, newspaper headlines, a GQ cover, magazine photos. I assume it isn't a GQ cover because GQ said no.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, I guess we're going to go with Gotham Tribune or whatever the cover that says.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a cool, hip fashion kind of thing like GQ, does it?
It's like they were just so into Michael Keaton as well. It's like, hey, they were 20 years in advance. They're going hashtag not my Batman. Not a goddamn chance. Doc Holliday's playing him. Get out of here.
It should have just been pictures of Keaton on the magazine, and they just played it like it was the same guy. Like, yeah, Batman. This is what he looks like, right? Yeah.
That's still the one thing I really wish. Well, there's many things I wish they'd done with Dark Knight Rises, but I always wish like you'd be going throughout Wayne Manor, and in one room, Bruce Wayne would have a huge portrait of Katie Holmes, and then later on he'd just be looking at pictures of Maggie Gyllenhaal, and he'd just flip back and forth about like which one was which.
Maggie is the best. We all know Maggie is one of the most amazing people on the planet.
Yeah, true. But yeah, I'm ready to wrap up this minute if you guys are, unless you got any other notes about this minute in particular.
Nope. I got my note in about the magazine cover.
I got my note in about what is that, man? So my problem is I did not write down my notes. I made them mentally, and I was like, "This will be fine." I think I got it.
We will depart and head off into the dark, dark night.
Damn it,
'cause
Chloe.
we haven't been. Yes. Would you like to tell our listeners where they can find you once more? George, you can go first this time. We're going to alternate, to be fair.
Liz and I are doing the entire series of 24, 1 minute at a time.
Wait, what now?
So, surprise! That's why Way to Dune Minutes got such a question mark on it, because it will mean nothing about Dune whatsoever.
I like it.
Or you could actually listen to Way to Dune Minute when it comes out. There's that too.
I was like, did you just fall off a cliff there with your own joke?
I was giving people room to respond, and no one did. So.
Well,
Because it was perfect the way it was.
oh, well, that's nicer than what I was going to say.
Oh! It's breaking down already. I haven't even started. But
No, it's
Liz,
tenderizing.
Liz, would you like to tell everybody where to find your wonderful work?
Well, George mentioned Way to Dune Minute, which, if it doesn't actually become a minute by minute review of the show 24, I will co-host.
Oh. We will let you depart, but we will toss this coin. We need to see once more, will our guest be returning? And I'm not cheating, right? So let's see. I'm going to go heads. They're going to stay.
Only problem is, John, the only person who says that all the time are cheaters.
No, I'm not cheating. Not cheating. And if we get to Friday, I'm gonna. I've got a way out of this.
Oh, wait. Have I forgot to think about the answer of the riddle during this episode.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to go with it on Friday.
Yeah, I still got nothing.
I've got nothing. Right, let's toss this. So let's see. You might be dead. So
Then I won't have to feel dumb about not getting the riddle.
But
Well,
then
you're
I will
lucky.
never be able to say it.
you're lucky because I haven't cheated and you've survived. It's heads. I alternate what's what. Heads was you surviving and you've survived. You've kept your head. So there you go. You're coming back Friday. Maybe you won't survive Friday though. We're gonna see.
Maybe.
We're gonna see. So everybody, join us on Friday for more murder.
Yay!
I mean, Batman
Murder.
forever.
Next time, wholly unveiled invention. A flabbergasted physicist relinquishes a kung fu grip as a mortified MC moves to jump ship on this whole trip. But while Eddie may be as irksome to Bruce as the absent Alexander Knox, will the bemused benefactor be moved to muse? What's with the box? Find out Friday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.